Hi everybody. I hope you're all well and happy. If you're new to this channel, I'd like to share with you what I'm all about. I've lived a very unusual life and I have many different experiences to share. Hopefully some of them are positive and uplifting, but also there's tragic ones. But tonight, the one I have to share is one I've never really told anybody. But the other day, about a month ago, I shared this story with my husband and my son. And it is a very difficult one to talk about, but I think that right now, what's going on in our world, I have to tell you. In 1967, I was a teacher at Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri. I was an art teacher. And at that time, I had a very dear friend. She's still my friend to this day, 55 years later. And she was a teacher in a little country town about 30 miles away. Well, one day I got a call from her, and she had been dating a guy. I knew that. I'd heard that. We didn't see each other as much as we did when we were in college, but I did talk to her, and I knew she was seeing a guy she really liked. And she called me one day and said, "Kay, I'm pregnant." And my heart just sank. It was illegal to get an abortion in those days. And I don't think she had been with this guy very long. I know she was crazy about him, but I didn't know much else. So I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And she said, "Well, I'm going to go talk to him." And the next phone call I got a few days later, she had tried to find him, and he had taken off and gone out of town. He was gone. He was absolutely gone. I think she had told him that she was pregnant. If I remember, it's been so many years, I can barely remember it all. But she had told him that she was pregnant, and he took off. He left her. And she was scared to death. I want you to just imagine what that's like. These times were very, very, very different then. If someone got pregnant, they had to tell their parents, and that was, sometimes they would be disowned. They might lose their job. How were they going to support this child? Sometimes people got pregnant that had 5 or 6 kids and they couldn't afford any. It was really a very, very trying time. And the way a lot of women did it was they tried to abort themselves with coat hangers, and they'd throw themselves downstairs. They'd do anything to not have this burden. Not that they never wanted a child, but in almost all these cases, it wasn't working into their life where they could afford it. What were they going to do with their own life? And that's what I noticed back then. Nobody cared about what happened to the woman who got pregnant. I mean, sex is supposed to be beautiful and loving. And in those days, there hardly wasn't any birth control. I think you could get a diaphragm, but you didn't get a diaphragm if you weren't married. It was taboo, absolutely taboo. In fact, when I grew up, I was in my 20s then. I think I'm 80 now. I don't remember how old, but I know it was 67 because I was teaching at that college then. You never expected that would happen to you. You did everything not to get pregnant. I mean, most of my friends did. They didn't have sex. And many people were in love, and it was really awful. Well, I called her up, and we met, and when I went over to see her, she was not the same woman I knew at all. Not at all. She could barely speak. She was so frightened. She didn't know what to do. She was in a corner, in a trap, in a place of no return. And I was afraid she might commit suicide. I really was. So I sat down, and the two of us we had a group of friends, but we were really, really close. And I said, well, I'll do the best I can to help you out. And I really didn't know what to do. So I thought and thought, and I prayed on it, and what was I going to do? And I remembered I had met a young girl, a sweet woman. I'll call her so maybe a hippie, and by that I mean my friend and I were between being hippies in that day, which is unconventional, free-spirited, and conservative because we were both teachers. She was a teacher also. And this girl was, I don't know, actually I didn't know her at all. I just had met her one time, but I remember how sweet she was and how caring she was. I remember that. So I dug around and I talked to people. I call it underground. It wasn't very deep of an underground, but it was in a small town where you spread the word, do you know such and such? And I did find her. And we met in a park. Imagine this. You were afraid to talk about abortion. And I met her and I said, do you know anyone who performs abortions? And she said, yes, I do. And she said, I'll find out for you. And she did. And she called me back and we met again. And she said there are rules to follow. One, he's a country doctor. You make an appointment. It costs $60. I remember that very well because together we came up with $60 just barely in those days. And she said, you can't go in with her. What you do is you drive to way out on a country road, and I'll never forget that drive. But she was telling me you drive out to a country road, which we did. Oh, well, I'm getting ahead of myself because she was telling me the story. Drive out there, and you go in, and everybody will be in the waiting room in this old house. That's where his office was. But there's going to be all kinds of people there with colds, flu, diabetes, whatever they have. Their problems. They're waiting to see the country doctor. She couldn't say a word. And this operation, this D&C, was going to be with no anesthesia because that's where people ran into problems, perhaps, with the anesthesia. And so she had to take the pain. And I told her this. I went back and I told her all the story. She said, she thanked me, she could barely talk, truly. And she said, okay. And so I made an appointment for her. And that day came, and I remember I actually called in sick at my teaching job and picked her. I went over to her apartment in this other little small town. I went to her apartment, and I walked in, and I was very, very scared. This young friend of mine was sitting in the bathtub. There was no water there, and she had this glazed look over her face. It was catatonic. There was no expression there. They were glazed eyes, and she was staring out into space, just sitting there. She wasn't dressed. I had called her ahead of time and told her, okay, get ready, I'm coming to get you. So I helped her out. She it was like with a toddler. I picked her up, helped her up, put clothes on her, dressed her. I was in another state of fear beyond belief myself, but I knew I had to get her there. So we drove out to this country doctor, this house, and I said, I wish I could go with you, but this girl told me, no, you have to just pretend like you're just a client or a patient. And she went in by herself, and I don't remember how long it took. I really just sat there and prayed. And she came out and she was white as a ghost. I mean, drained. And I saw her and I did go up and got her hand and helped her and got in the car. She couldn't speak. No words, nothing. And we had made arrangements. There was a couple, friends of hers, a very lovely couple. And they had agreed to take care of her, let her stay at their house for however long it took, a few days or a week or whatever. They were going to take care of her. So we got to their house and they took her in. And I could barely sleep. To me, the whole idea of abortion is so scary and so... She never wanted an abortion, but what was she going to do? In those days, who knew what her family would do? Who knew? She would have lost her job. You couldn't be an unmarried woman having a baby. People didn't get pregnant in those days while they worked. No, it was different. That was 55 years ago. No, they didn't. And so I just prayed. She did not hemorrhage. She did not get sick. Oh, thank you, God. She didn't. And she was there, I don't know, she was there about 5 days, I think. I don't really remember. And the doctor, we never heard anything that the doctor ever got into trouble. We never talked about it again. I never saw that woman again because I really didn't know her that well. But that was an experience that she and I shared that was probably one of the most difficult emotionally, I think, that I've ever had in my life. And I never told anybody. I never talked about it. She and I are still very close. She's absolutely one of my best friends. And we never talked about it with each other. We moved together to Boston and we've been friends for a long time. And a few years ago, I brought it up for some reason. I think when we were starting to hear about Roe versus Wade and how it's, may not be in existence anymore. We were beginning to hear this, and we talked about it, and she looked at me and she said, you remember more than I do. She said, because I was out of it. She said, I went to another space. And I know what that's like to do that, because I was raped when I was and hospitalized, and I went to another space. When you're in fear, pain, you don't know what to do but when the situation's rough. And she turned to me and she said, Kay, you saved my life. And I never really thought about it that again, but now when I told my husband and my son, he said, you've got to tell your story. It's not really my story. It's her story, but it's our shared experience that was very traumatic. And he said, because they're going to die. I'm old, so there aren't enough people around to tell the world, tell all you women and men, people, how awful it is. We have to do something about this. I am so torn inside about what's happening in our world. We have a constitution, and we have rules, but there's a dark energy it's been around for years. There are people in the Republican Party, men and women, but mostly white men, that want power, and they want money, and they don't give a hoot. They don't care at all about humanity, about people's feelings, about caring, loving, sharing. No, they don't. And they're all over this country. In about half of our country, maybe as many as 29 states. I can't keep up with them. in the state houses, in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, in those state houses, they have passed so many unfair voting laws. And we're about to have an election. And these elections, usually when they're not a federal election for the president or, major offices, they usually don't do as well. We don't have a choice. I am scared to death. We have to vote people in all over this country, all over. And in the federal government as well. We have to get congressmen, we have to get governors, we have to get who are caring, loving, sharing, democratic, small d and large d, people that care. We have them. We have them right now, but we don't have enough votes to get all of these things passed. We actually need new amendments to our Constitution. But how can we do any of this? We can't pass what's fair. We can't pass gun laws. We can't do anything about climate change. We now are going to be faced, and I know it's coming, and so do you. Roe versus Wade. Abortion is going to be illegal. And then after that, right now it's happening all over these states. If you're raped, you might still have to have the baby. Imagine that. I was raped. I was hospitalized for 3 weeks, and it took me 10 years. 10 years it took me to get over this. I'm not kidding you. Imagine if I was pregnant and had to deal with it. I would be dead right now, for sure. We have to change it. We have to vote. And that's why I'm doing this video. I'm pleading with you. I'm pleading with you, especially the young people. You have the energy right now, all of you. You're on the internet. You're on social media. You can pass the word. Please share this video. Please, please, I'm begging you. Send it to as many people as you can. And more than that, get together with your friends. Make this a fun thing. It's so important. I actually feel we're not going to make it if we don't get enough votes. When President Biden was elected and we just barely had 50 people, and we would have had 51 with Kamala Harris, and then we have 2 people in the Democratic Party. I believe they're Republican in disguise or something. They don't want to get rid of the filibuster. I mean, it's so wrong. I can't take it anymore. And I truthfully, I don't have the energy. I'm telling you. When I heard years ago about Citizens United, that had been passed, and I don't know, that must have been 8 or 10 years ago. I've lost track. There's so much ugliness that's happened in the last 10 years, especially the last 6 years. There's so much, it's just darkness that's come over us, and everything seems like it gets worse and worse. When President Biden got in, I thought, we'll have 51. Well, some of these votes take 60. We're not even close. Please, we have to get in there. We have to get our candidates in there. Do some research. I know some of you. I know young people especially. You're very, you haven't lived life like I have. Older people, you're just seeing, you want to have a family, or you want to go out on dates, you want to have fun, you're seeing all these problems. The depression rates and the suicide rates are so high with young people, and I don't blame them. I mean, it's terrible what the world you're looking at. It's so dark, but there is hope for us. Right now, a lot of people don't know this. They really don't, but I came into this world as a spiritual person. I came in, and actually, young people today, the younger you go, I don't know the names of all these Gen X and all. I don't know these names of all these ages. I really don't. But the young people, that's why young people know when they're transgender so young. They're coming in here awakened spiritually. What's happening in our universe is we're having a paradigm shift. It means that, I'm sure you've heard about the age of Aquarius. Well, right now, our world, we had to have everyone who's alive right now is going through this. We had to have we had to have a pandemic. We have to have wars, or we have to have people getting killed all the time. It's so wrong. It's so unfair. I never even heard of Juneteenth. I never knew. I'm educated, and I didn't know all the horrible things that happened to Black people and Native Americans. Believe it or not, I was taught in school that Native Americans were bad. I mean, we have to do something about this. We're trying. The Democrats in Congress are trying to pass bills to help people, help all of us. The majority of people are kind, loving, caring, and want to help. There's a handful. Okay, it's probably millions, but a smaller amount. They want money and power, and they'll for years now. For years, it started in other centuries, especially with white men. I hate to say it. I'm white. It's embarrassing. What about everybody else? What about the beauty of all the immigrants from everywhere? My dad came here from Kyiv when he was 22 years old. He lied. He was actually 16, and he lied to get on the boat. And he came here, and he would tell me when he was younger, he didn't know about all the undercurrent of ugliness that has been going on. He saw wonderful neighbors, wonderful people. He used to tell me, oh my gosh, I love America, Unfortunately, he died young. He died when he was 45, but I remember he was so grateful to be in America where he wasn't in an oppressive country. We are in an oppressive country now. Not the majority of people, though, but the ones in power, the ones that have money, are controlling us. There's only one way. We have to have more people in the Congress, in the states, and in the federal government. And please, we have 6 months before this next election. I'm just begging you, all of you young people, get together with, you know how when there were so many young advocates for gun control, and they fought, and we're still having these horrible shootings everywhere. But they're out there. Those young people are out there fighting. I don't mean fighting with guns. I don't mean fighting with knives. I mean fighting with their words, with their heart, with their soul. And President Biden said it. We're fighting for the soul of America. We truly are. And we have to get more people that are kind, that are caring, that are generous, that want to help each other. The only way we can do it is with our vote. Now, here's the problem. In 25 of these states, they've already enacted so many laws that are going to hold you back. Oh my gosh, some people are going to have to drive 100 miles or whatever it is to place a vote. They've taken away mail-in voting. Please, if you're an attorney, if you have any energy in you at all, gather together with your friends, with your family. Call up, see how you can help. I'll be honest with you, I don't have the energy to do it at 80. I had spine surgery, and I even have trouble with arthritis. Terrible. I couldn't even go to the Women's March 6 years ago. But I do have a voice, and I'm trying to inspire you to work to change the people that are in power. Change it. As many as we can. We just need enough in Congress, in the federal government, and in these state governments. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're young, you have energy, you have smarts, you can figure it out. We've got 6 months. Please do it, and please share this video with as many people, because maybe some people don't even realize what it was like when abortion wasn't legal. I lived that whole thing, and my friends lived this whole thing, and I saw so many suicides. And it's just, we can't go back. We just cannot go back. So I'm really hoping and praying that, I mean, I know I sound very dramatic, but it's a really tragic place for us to be. But we have hope. When this paradigm shift comes, we are in the worst part. It's kind of like, I don't know what to compare it with, except that all I know is that I was a very sick person for many years, and I was in therapy for 7 years, and I reached my bottom. It's almost like we're all reaching our bottom, and what the bottom is for much learning in life is it opens your eyes to what's really happening. I didn't know a lot of what is happening until you see the evil darkness surround us, and you see these kooky, horrible, stupid conspiracy theories twisted, and they're all over. It's horrible. But we have the hope for raising our consciousness, and that's what's happening. I won't be here when this is beginning to start, but it really is going to happen if we make these efforts, and that's how important it is to vote. It really is. I'm sorry I'm so dramatic. I can't help it. I just can't help it. I'm really afraid for us, because before I go, I want you to look something up. Many of you have heard of this already. Most of you haven't, I don't think. Look up Lemuria and Atlantis. They were actually civilizations that were actually probably brighter and healthier than we are. They destroyed themselves. And we have a choice now. We can have golden, magnificent 1,000 years of beauty coming. We really do. We have that choice. Or we can keep going down in the mush. And I don't want to be a part of that at all. I want to be on the happy side, on the beautiful side, where there's peace, love, and harmony. And I know you do too. So please make an effort and dig in, look it up, go to Google. For gosh sake, I know you can find anything on Google. Ask the questions. How can I be a part of helping humanity? Whatever. And do it with your friends. And you young people have the energy. Anyway, that's enough preaching. I'm sorry, really. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I've shared this. But I care about all of you. I really do. And I want us to lead healthy, happy lives and stay safe, please. I pray a lot. I visualize. And until the next time, be well.